Yeah, that's your name.
Squirrels got me.
Big Jim.
Yeah.
Really, 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 really cold and fun.
Cold and fun.
Cold and fun.
That's good that you think that of it, because that's what deer hunting typically is cold and fun.
Yesterday morning, I'm glassing up on the pass, and I see these deer moving, and I'm like, ooh, there's deer moving. All of a sudden, I just see this person just head down, just hauling ass, wearing shorts and a t-shirt with a pack on. And I'm like, is that Tard? My dad always talks about floating through the woods like the autumn breeze.
So Robert's
when you're
the ghost, and
275
what's
pounds, I don't know how you do that, but
the Freightliner. It's just like a creeper. You're just kind of up in the corner watching what's going on down there.
yeah,
You know,
he's like,
he's up there slapping, pissing all over everything.
is it warm yet?
How did you know the name of the actor?
That's I know.
Why did you say his name?
Hervé Villechaize.
You know what pert near means.
If you know what pert near means and you live in America, you're a redneck too.
Welcome to the Log Talk Podcast, brought to you by Pert Near Outdoors.
Yo. What's up?
Yo. How's that voice?
Feeling a little rough right now, eh?
Yeah, you sound a little nasally. Got that 5-day flu.
Yeah. I think we're on the downhill slide, so.
Yeah, that's good. Glad to hear it. Dad says he was in, but I don't think Dad knows what he's doing.
I think he joined his own probably. That's
yeah,
probably what he did.
He probably created his own Bullhorn podcast platform and joined his own show.
He probably started as Pert Near Outdoors and just took it upon himself to manage his own account.
Yeah, like spelled Pert Near wrong, probably.
Yeah, more than likely.
Yeah. Well, we got some people tuning in to join us, so thanks for joining us tonight. It's going to be Big Jim, myself, and Big Willie, our father.
We got some people tuning in to join us. So
hold on.
Come on, Jim.
My bad.
Hey.
Mistake.
Jimmy D, what's up? Making any sausage down there in Pennsylvania? Got Jim DiAgostino's on, messaging on the board. So we're going to do a discussion tonight on our venison grinding process. We're a little bit late this year. Usually we do that right after the beginning of the year in January. But with the Rona and with other family things that have gone on, we have had to kind of push that back a little bit. So here we are. We're going to talk some grinding tonight. And Big Jim's with us. We're still waiting on Dad. So if anybody wants to call in and say hello, feel free. We're here, and we are.
If anybody can figure out where Dad went, let us know.
Yeah, if anybody's seen our father, point him in this direction. He's close to retired and probably losing his hearing and doesn't know where he is. This is unacceptable.
He was in
Jim.
20 minutes ago, though.
He was prepared. Yep. So how you been? I mean, you want to go into any of your personal life or no? What's the stance over there?
Just been a roller coaster, one thing after another. And then the Rona finally got us. So
yeah.
I mean, we had the funeral Thursday, and then Friday I just felt like spending a day in the woods, so I went and frost seeded everything down at camp. And then I went shed hunting for a while. And then Saturday, I figured just the combination of the last 2 days kind of full. Figured I was feeling kind of tired, maybe a little hungover. But by Sunday morning, I was like, man, I'm just beat. And I'm like, I should be recovered by now, I would think. And it was kind of like a sinusy thing. And then it was just like I was going through trail cam pictures down here, trying to catalog some because I got just a mess of pictures overloaded. And it was like a switch flipped. It was just like all of a sudden I had the flu. So I went and took a test, and sure as shit, it was positive. So that just started our 5-day quarantine. But
yeah, it's pretty amazing. You went full on 15 days to slow the curve. You did it to flatten the curve. You flattened it, and now you're on the downhill slide. So good job. It would
crazy part is we went 2 years.
I know.
And
And you were an essential worker. You never stopped working, you know?
Nope.
But you know what it is, Jim? It's because you stopped wearing a mask. That's what caused it. Yeah. But anyway, so you've had the Deltacron, because apparently that's what everybody's getting now is Deltacron. Apparently that's the thing.
I'll tell you what, it smoked me there for at least, I would say, 36 hours.
Yeah.
Because it was Sunday into Monday night.
Oh, Jesus. What's he doing?
And then by
Oh, my God.
and then by Tuesday morning it was better, but still not great.
Big Willie.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, you sound awful. How are you?
I sound awful.
No, you sound good. You sound good.
Okay.
What are you sitting on your freezer? Is that what you're doing?
Sitting
Kind
in
of
front
looks
of
like
me.
it, doesn't it?
Yeah, you're sitting in front of your chest freezer.
Yeah, so I don't annoy your mother.
Oh. So how many years is it taking to try to figure that out? Is that the secret? Just go sit by your chest freezer and she'll leave you alone?
I just stay in the basement.
Yeah.
That's just, he's
I'm
just
not
learning.
mistaken. Two of you were in the basement too. Huh?
Yeah, I was gonna say he's been learning from watching this podcast. Just go to the basement and get away from your wives.
Yeah. My problem is my work area in the basement is directly below our bedroom with no insulation on the ceiling. So I've been pondering what to do with that, whether to put some insulation, roll it out on the ceiling, maybe if that would help. But my damn voice carries so well that it's a problem inside the house. Once it's about 9:30, quarter to 10, it's the text messages. Wrap it up. About had enough. Yeah.
I'm at that point in my man cave too. That's right underneath the bedroom, and I got to do something with the ceiling to close it up. So
Get
I'm in
some
the
of
same
those
boat you are.
paneling where you wrap the cloth around the panels and screw them up there.
That's not a bad idea. Get some blankets.
Yeah.
Take some old blankets.
Or put a podcast booth in your garage.
Yeah, your meat cooler would be a perfect size for a little individual's podcast studio. You know that?
Climate control.
Yeah.
You could sit in there and roll around on the bloody floor.
You could. Yeah, absorb the ticks into your
Smells
skin.
great in the summer months too, I'm sure.
Oh, I clean it right up here. We get into March and when things warm up, I get in there on my hands and knees and scrub the floors and everything, and I have it clean.
You should charge the union for that.
Should.
I should have a union member come do it. Like we should have a work detail.
We should have the apprentices come do it.
That's right. We should get Colton Joe to do it.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, so Dad, you jumped in. You said you were on, but you weren't, and now you're here.
I didn't hit the right button.
Yeah. So we just basically just said hello to everybody, and tonight's discussion is going to be about our annual meat grinding. What do we call it? Grind day is what we call it. So
Grinding day. Are we live?
we're live. Yeah, this is live. Yeah,
Oh, nice.
yeah. Daniel Dunnigan's on here. That hardworking sumbitch. He's
He
on.
never stops.
No.
He never stops.
Always there.
I don't know how he does it. So we got, I know in the message board I saw we got Jim D, we got Dan, we got Joe Sancho, and we got Brian Gottfried on. So howdy to those who have made yourself known. We appreciate you tuning in. And so we're just gonna shoot the breeze, kind of talk about our operation, what we do, how it all goes, and kind of start, I guess, with we've done a discussion. We did a podcast a year or so ago, kind of about the history of our family's meat grinding and deer processing operation that we do as a family. It's not nothing for profit, nothing like that. But we did a podcast a while ago, so I don't want to dig back into the history, and I'll put that in the link here to the show notes. If anybody wants to go back and listen to that, they are more than welcome. But I guess tonight I kind of want to talk about what we've got coming down the pipe and what the plans look like for this year. It sounds like we've got a lot of meat to do, and we've got a lot of maybe some new ideas of things. Dad, I know you and I talked. I'm thinking you probably talked with Jimmy about some different ideas to maybe make it a little more efficient. So that's kind of what my thoughts were. We'll just kind of see where the conversation goes, and if anybody has anything to interject with, either on Facebook or on Bullhorn, feel free to shoot a message or call in or whatever. We're open to. We're not experts with this. We just do a lot of it, so we know what we know. But if people have any ideas on how to help with the product coming out the pipe, we're more than happy to hear about it. So
Yeah, we're learning every year, right?
yeah, we are.
Yeah, I mean, last year I did all my stuff myself, so I'm pretty excited to be back with a group this year because that makes doing 180 pounds a lot easier.
No, that had to have been a hell of a project last year by yourself.
Well, I think that's kind of where some of mine got maybe a little messed up was like all the stuff that I did in the beginning of the day and got like packaged and put away quick was all really good. But there was 2 big totes of just regular grind burger and pork fat that I left out overnight. That was, it was 29 degrees, so it was freezing. And I came out in the morning and mixed them back up a little and packed them the next day. And none of that stuff, it wasn't rotten, but it didn't taste, it had a little gamey taste to it. I think that was what made that taste like that, was not being able to get it all packed in one day myself. I probably should have just waited and ground it the second day, but I had a big plan in mind that I was going to get it all done in one day. And
well, that's the way we always do it, right? We always one day blitz it out, but
as a one-man operation, that was a lot of meat to try to get through. And I was, experimenting with some stuff myself. Dad bought me a burger patty press last year, right off the grinder. So you fill up the thing and whack it and the burger falls out. And I was filling up cookie sheets of those and putting them in the freezer and pulling them back out later and vacuum packing them while they're all nice and formed up. And then I did all my breakfast sausage because that was a smaller batch than my regular grind. All that stuff turned out fantastic. It was just really the bulk stuff that if I'd have got it packed that first day, it probably would have been better.
Well, it's amazing how much it warms up through the day too. That's one of the tricks is, based on the size of the bags, when do you take it out to thaw? It's like thawing a Thanksgiving turkey, 25 pounders got to come out, 48 hours, thaw it in the fridge, but a 12 pounder thaws quicker, right? So, we have smaller bags, we have bigger bags. We had some of the real big bags that we split down into smaller bags this year. But, taking the product, the stuff that sometimes the guys come in the door with it's like completely thawed, which I don't like, and it's, doing this now at the end of March, I mean, it's likely to be above freezing. So that was one of the thoughts I had is we may have to have guys bring coolers, so we can get this meat packed away in coolers right away. But, towards the end of the day, it just doesn't grind as nice and you don't make as good a product if it's too thawed, the stuff that's still partially frozen that, Jimmy usually takes it apart, but, to break that apart, that stuff grinds better, I think, and stays cold as it works its way down the line. So,
yeah, that coarse grind is meant when your hands are freezing numb, when you're breaking it apart, that's when it really goes through. And we bought that second grinder there that, we had the second grinder from Ricky there for a while that was chain driven, and you put any of them frozen pieces in and that thing was bouncing all over the damn table. But you bought that new one there a couple of years ago and you can put anything through that. So the colder the better, really.
Fast.
Yeah, so let's go back just on how we approach this, because I think that's what's, a lot of people that will listen maybe have never ground their own meat, don't necessarily know. It seems like an overwhelming task. I know, just in the chat here, I know Brian Gottfried, he does all of his stuff. I think he does it with his dad, but, he does it kind of a solo job. And it's way easier in a way when it's just you. If you haven't shot like 5 or 6 deer plus like Jimmy did, where you've got 180 pounds, if you've got, 40, 60 pounds of venison, it's not an overwhelming task to do. So what we do as a practice is when we cut our deer, we'll butcher, right after the deer is killed, and we'll butcher. And what we'll do is anything that's going to be burger meat, we'll trim it, we'll clean it up then and there, but it goes into a separate, whether it's we used an old garbage can for a while, like one of the tall kitchen garbage cans, and we put the tall kitchen garbage bags in it, unscented. Make sure you use unscented bags, and we bag the meat up. Double bag it depending on the weight. Typically, why not double bag it just for safety purposes when you put it in the freezer? But we do all that up front, knowing that we're going to get together as a group and do our grinding after deer season's over, and kind of keep that part of it out of that nightly grind. Because I do know, like the Kirsches, when I first started cutting with them, they did it all. Like the night that you cut your deer, you're throwing it through the grinder, one pass through, no mix with no seasoning or no fat, pork butt or anything like that. And they were never terribly happy with the product that they had. It was just it was basically whatever came off the table in the burger bowl was going through the grinder. So us doing it this way, that's kind of the back end. That's how we get to grind day. And then, everybody knows what they've got. And throughout the season, Dad, you're keeping a tally as you guys are processing the deer. You're keeping a tally of how many pounds everybody has and all that, correct?
Right. So, yeah, and it starts, when we're butchering and we fill those bags, we get our burger bags, and something we started doing a couple of years ago is we actually bought tags with, the tie-on tag. So, we actually, weigh them, write down, person's name and what the weight is, and then I can cross-reference it on the chart because I got the books with all the stats in it, right? So then what I always like do a spreadsheet with how much we have, so I figure out what we need for product, for seasonings, for pork. So, but this year I did a spreadsheet, and then I put a separate tab for every hunter, and then I've got the order sheets that are basically on computer. So what I'll do prior to grind day is actually print off all the order sheets, and then I'll work off of those rather than handwriting them each, as we go through the line. So, but this year, as much as I don't know, I thought it was a slow year, especially at camp, but a lot of guys complained about, it was a tough year for deer hunting for whatever reason, but we, we're going to be, I think we're looking at like 36 deer that we're going to be grinding, counting yours, Billy, and Howie's, so, we've got, I don't know, last couple of years, we used to hang around 30. In the last few years, we've been, 21, 22, 23. So, I mean, we got 10 more deer than we usually do. And, some of us take some product out and take it to, steel sausage and catering. I like to have cheddar dogs made. So I'll have one made into hot dogs. And so, and I think, I don't know, Jimmy, if you were doing that too, or I think a couple of the guys are pulling bags out to have stuff made, or, take it somewhere and make some snack sticks or whatever you call them, Slim Jims, that type of stuff. But basically, when you back all that out, our raw number right now going into it's like 640 pounds. So, that'll be a big day for us. And, knowing that that's all got to go through the grinder twice, but having two grinders, that cuts our time down. I think last year we were probably around, I think we were around 475 pounds last year. So it's a big difference this year. And
well, really, that's just holding my shit out.
That's Jimmy, right? That's not having Jimmy there.
We're probably pretty close, but I mean, I'm going to send, what was it, 100 pounds or more through just regular straight, just mix it with pork and go. So, I mean, that's not going to take us much time at all. That's
no, and here's an interesting stat. We used to do a lot more with the sausages and mixing in the spices. And, we're going to have, when we're all said and done, we're going to have just shy of 800 pounds. If it all works out, we got like 150 pounds of ground pork butt that we'll mix in. And then other guys are mixing in maple bacon. So we'll put a pound of that in per 5 pounds of venison for their maple bacon breakfast sausage. And then I think, Billy, you had some fat that you had, that we're going to put in. So, by the time it's all said and done, we're going to probably be over 800 pounds. I just look at the product I have to buy, right? So I'm buying 150 pounds. We'll put it with that 640, and, we'll come out around 800, but by the time you add in the bacon, so we'll probably be around 820, 825. But the interesting stat this year is that we've got 500. I think I got just regular plain. I think we're looking at 503 pounds. So, better than half of it, the guys are going all plain burger. So, and I'm doing it. And Jimmy kind of turned me onto this. Everybody in the gang says how the meat is always the best. Like we take samples out as we're grinding throughout the morning, and then we'll cook out for lunch, right? Make cheeseburgers or cook up some sausage. And that stuff is unbelievable. The flavor is just perfect. Mm-hmm. And then you freeze it and you take it out 8 months or 9 months later, 10 months later. And the seasoning's there, but it's not the same, right? It's just not as good. And Jimmy kind of turned me on to mixing up seasonings, when you actually cook it. So I've been doing that this year. I've got, some Polish, some Italian, You know, and I know how many ounces I put in. So if I get a pound and a half of venison out or a pound and a quarter, you know, I get my seasoning and I actually mix it up in a bowl and then I make my burgers, and it is unbelievable. So the nice thing is that then sometimes you really love the Italian, you eat it all up, and then all you got left is breakfast. You don't eat as much of that. So we this year I do it all straight burger. I'm going to do the same thing this year. And then at dinner time, you can say, what do you feel like tonight? You know, and we'll mix in whatever seasoning we want. And it is fantastic. It's better flavor. So, you know, obviously you can't do that with stuffing casings and things like that. I think we're doing around 110 pounds of link sausage this year in the natural pork casings. And one of the things I've been researching, I've never done, and you guys may have talked to some sausage grinders too, but you know, you do a little research on it, you find out, you know, a lot of times you add water to your mixture, right? So I've been kind of researching that a little bit. And when you're mixing up your sausage to go through the stuffer, you know, to make your links, they say to add like a cup of water for 5 pounds of venison. And sometimes I saw one article that talked about mixing your seasonings into the water and then put the water in, mix it, put a little more water in, mix it. And they say you just get much better absorption. And it also helps the meat to be like a little pastier, which you wouldn't think would help, but it does help as you put it through the sausage stuffer. So I don't know. Have you ever done that, Jim?
Yeah, that was actually what I was telling you I did last year with my breakfast sausage, because I bought that Backwoods breakfast sausage blend, and it said right on the package to add such and such amount of water. So doing it all myself and doing it a little different, I just added the water like it said to, and it turned out really well.
And I'm thinking that they say it'll give you a little juicier mix, or, you know, a little moisture sausage when you cook it. And I think that's one of the things that we would all admit, that, you know, if you do 5 pounds of venison and, you know, a pound of ground pork butt and mix that in, then put your seasoning in, you know, and then you stuff that. The sausage it's not as juicy as if you know, it's a leaner meat, so it's not quite as moist as a sausage you might buy at the store at your butcher, you know.
Well, the other thing with that is, I think last year I didn't do links with you guys, but the year before I did, and I upped my pork. It was either 2 to 5 pounds or 3 to 5 pounds just in my links, just so I could get them juicier.
Yeah, you did 2 to 5.
They were incredible.
Yeah. And of course, you know, the pork butt is not, you know, it's not pure fat, right? It's a well marbled meat. It's got good fat content, but so you're not adding, you know, a tremendous amount of fat versus, you know, some guys will have just fat that they'll add in. So I you know, and I never like to add too much pork because I want to know I'm eating venison. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. At some point, you're not eating venison anymore.
Well, that's what I did last year. Different too, is I took straight the back fat. I didn't do the pork butt like you guys normally do. I did the straight back fat. It was pretty good, but at first I thought that's what was different with my meat. But I think it was the sitting out overnight was what did it.
You know, I got some of that fat left, Jimmy, that you had last year. It's in the freezer. I don't know if it would be any good. I mean,
I got a bunch of it too. I froze all the leftovers.
Yeah.
And that's what I've got. I got pork, just straight pork fat from Stan, and also some beef fat too. So I'm interested to try some of that, both of those. Yeah. So let's talk fat first, and then we had a question come in from Joe that will kind of fall in line here, but let's talk about where to buy fat, because I think that can throw people sideways. You know, it's like, well, what the hell do I? So let's talk about what we do in the places we use in the Rochester area, and you know, every city has, you know, even some of the smaller towns have meat processors. So talk a little bit, Dad, about, you know, what you do with purchasing the fat end of it, and then we'll talk seasonings too.
Yeah, so I've used Skip's Meat Market for years. They got a couple different shops around the Rochester area, and so I use we use Skip's Meat Market for our ground pork butt, and I imagine if I wanted fat, they could get that for me too. Jimmy, it looked like the fat you had last year was ground. You know, they did a coarse grind on it, I think, for you, didn't they?
Yeah.
So, you know, you can get the ground fat, and you could get that at Skip's as well. But typically you're going to go to a butcher shop, and whether you do we like the ground pork butts, but if you wanted to do just straight fat, you can do that as well and order it up. They got their schedule set for the week, so I like to let them know a week ahead, and they can order the product in. And if they're going to coarse grind 150 pounds for me, they're going to need half a day to schedule that in. So we usually do that. We have them put it in like 20. I think we put it in 20-pound plastic bags, and then I pick it up Friday afternoon, put it in the refrigerator here, and then we work that off, as we go throughout the day Saturday. So one time, Ricky, actually, we had a couple of good fat does that we harvested, and a lot of times if they got a lot of heavy fat on them, you can skin that off. And Ricky saved a bunch of it and ground that in with his meat. And, it was okay. He didn't mind. It was good, but it wasn't as good as the pork fat, obviously. But
right.
But you can do that too if you process your own deer, and you get a lot of times the bucks are run down and they'll just be hiding meat, right, when you skin them off. But you get a good mature doe and they're layered right up with fat. You can get a lot of fat off them.
I know I talked to one of my customers in the southern tier there that does butchering. And he said that he just uses his local grocery store. I mean, they got a butcher shop in the grocery store, and he says he goes down there and tells them what he needs, and they save the scrap for him. And so, I mean, you don't have to have a big meat market to go to. It can be your local grocery store with just a meat shop in the back. Go talk to the boys and see what they can get you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the other thing that we've started, you mentioned maple bacon, but bacon's become a popular thing for several of the guys, especially with their breakfast sausage. They like to use the maple smoked bacon and the thick cut stuff. I think Adam buys a lot of his from Wegmans, but I saw that Joel sent a message to the group yesterday that Honey Falls Marketplace had a pretty darn good deal on bacon. So I think a few guys were going to get some of their bacon that way. But that's a nice way to cut that in. Especially for your breakfast stuff. But I've used I don't know if you remember a few years ago, I went to Federal Meats up in East Aurora. They have a location. I went there and actually they didn't have any straight pork butt or pork fat. They didn't have anything like that available, but they did have some what was it? I think it was not brisket, pork belly. They had pork belly. And and I put that in, and that was pretty good. But that was there was quite a bit of meat to that. That wasn't just really fatty stuff to blend in. So a lot of it, like you said, Dad, you can't do it wrong. But at some point, if you're putting in so much pork that it's almost a third pork, 2/3 venison, you're starting to get away from the fact it's venison. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. You do what you want to do. If you like having it taste that way, then you're not doing anything wrong. It's your meat. You do what you want with it, but that's just kind of how we approach it anyway. But
yeah, it's interesting because as long as we've been doing it, we still find guys adjusting and tweaking a little bit. And somebody like Jimmy will do it all straight and then he mixes in his seasoning. And then, we talk about it in the group, and then I started doing that. And now this year, we got better than half our product will be straight, and there's going to be more guys doing that. So, in the seasoning, it didn't used to be this way. I mean, you can go down, I forget what it is, maybe Sportsman's Warehouse or whatever it is down in Henrietta there. And you walk in there and they got, meat grinding equipment, stuff from Lem. They got sausage stuffing equipment. They got a bunch of seasoning down there, So it used to be, it was a little bit harder to go find the seasoning. Like we get all ours from Stewart's. But you can just go to a store like Sportsman's Warehouse and buy it. And they got some grinders. I mean, ours are pretty good size. I think we're running 22s. And when we bought the second one, we bought it same size as the first one. So the dies and the knives would be interchangeable. But, that size 22 pushes that meat through. I mean, we do a lot of meat. We can, do it 600-700 pounds in 6 hours. We'll do 100 pounds an hour, no problem. And that's with taking time to, switch batches and change things out. And Jimmy will usually get done with his coarse grind and then switch over and, and help with some final grind. So the second grinder, I don't know if you guys remember, right back in the day, we had just the one grinder. We had to run everything through on a coarse grind. And then we wanted to get the whole batch done for the hunter, So if we're and then we would like switch out the dies, go to a finer die, and it just took forever.
Yeah, that second grinder, just like a lot of times I'm standing around waiting for you guys to catch up so I can start the next guy.
Yep.
We'll just blow right through the course grind with that new grinder. But
Yeah, it's really hurt. It's really hurt the ability for guys to get drunk while we're grinding because there's no downtime. You remember that time?
I don't know. You guys still seem to figure out how to make that happen.
Yeah, well, you remember that time, Big Jim? What did you drink? What was that? Admiral Nelson? You drank?
I ended up on that kitchen floor.
Yeah.
10 toes of the sky. Yeah.
Mom was not happy. Yeah, you were petting Jack laying on the kitchen floor. She was pissed. Oh my God. But it used to be like a 10-hour day. I mean, we would start at 6 a.m. and we wouldn't be done until, 5 o'clock at night. It was
like 11 hours. We'd start at 6. It was 11 hours, and we do. If we have 500, well, if you had the pork, we'll do 600 pounds. We're done. We start at 7. We're done at 2 o'clock. All packaged, put away. So you talked about the fat a little bit, and then the other thing is the seasonings that you want to get. And then, if you're just doing your own deer and you got a couple, you could do it straight and then just buy some small packages of seasoning and play around with it as you cook it throughout the year. We have a lot of guys. Italian and Cajun are our two biggest. And then we have the breakfast sausages come in behind that. But I think we're doing like 115 pounds of Italian and around 100 or 105 pounds of Cajun. So, and Billy, you kind of got it. We always did like breakfast, Italian, or straight burger. That was it. It was pretty blah, right? And then along came Slick Willie and let's try some what is it? Andouille.
It's the
andouille. We had some andouille, some Cajun, and it really, that stuff is great. It's fun to use that. We put some Polish in, so now we've got a lot of different flavors. But the seasoning, again, you can get that, and you could probably get some of that. I've never looked, but you could probably get some at your local grocer.
Well, that's what I do when I'm grocery shopping. Especially during the summer, they roll out all the burger seasonings and, stuff like that. And it doesn't even have to be specifically for burger, but McCormick's always has their whole lineup of seasonings. And I just grab a bunch of packets. They're 99 cents a piece. And, you can get the variety with whatever you want.
Play around with them.
So I want to, you didn't say anything about Stewart's, right? Stewart seasoning.
I did. I mentioned
you did.
Stewart spices, yeah.
So you were buying that stuff for a long time through Palmer's, right? Or not Palmer's,
Skips.
through Skips.
When I would order, I would also order seasonings, or I'd go in the store and pick up what they had. But then I noticed the seasoning was actually like they were getting it from Stewart's. So
right. So then I think it might have actually been the year that I went to pick up the pork for you that I went there and they didn't have enough of what we needed. So I actually went right over and, so I think this will be the third year that we've gone directly to Stewart Seasoning. And, if you haven't used them, if you don't know about them, they're located in Rochester, family owned business. They physically mix and pack all their seasonings, and they have the whole facility, the showroom, as well as the mixing, everything happens right there. I should have the street name in front of me, which I'll find. But the beautiful part now is that they've got their entire everything is built out online. So stewartseasonings.com, and you can actually place your order online and then just show up and pick it up. And if you have any bulk quantities or anything like that you need to get, you can order that and work it through with them. So I've really fallen in love. They're just freaking super nice people. And then this whole ability to be able to order online is pretty outstanding. And it's free shipping on any orders over $50. So it's really not hard to do that. So I placed an order a few weeks ago when we were expecting to do our grind when we were, and it was slick. I placed the order, and to save them shipping, I knew I was going to be in the area, so I just did it for a pickup. And I showed up, they had it all pre-bagged right next to the door for me. But you can see all their seasonings. They got recipes online, and what I've liked, this will be our second year doing it. I'm excited for tomorrow. It's St. Patrick's Day tomorrow, the 17th, and I've got about 6 pounds of venison that's been in a brine, and they've got a cool little kit that you can buy from them. That's everything's pre-seasoned. The seasoning's all mixed pre. It has everything you need, the bag, the directions on how to do it. So it's a pretty slick setup. And then I'm seeing here in the comments, Brian Gottfried also mentioned the sausage maker out of Buffalo. They're like I don't know if world renowned, but they're like well known across the country. At least America. I know that much. Yeah. The sausage maker, they're a big deal, and that's located right here in Buffalo. So I know that's like I've done a bunch with the cheese. Getting the high temp cheeses and putting them in summer sausage and in the link sausage, and that's where I've been getting my high temp cheese from. So thanks for the reminder, Brian, about them, because I need to order that stuff.
Grab me some too, Bill.
Okay.
I'll tell you, I was a couple years ago, Billy, that you got all that high temp cheese, and then you got some yellow and red peppers and maybe some green peppers, and
onions.
The night before the grind, you were like a crazy man dicing up peppers, and had Tupperware containers full of peppers and cheese, and we mixed that in and stuffed the links with that stuff, and we did it again since you've done it.
I did it last year too.
Oh my God, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, so pretty much all of my link sausage the last 2 years I've done that, regardless of what the seasoning is. I like either hot Italian or that andouille now is kind of taken top on my list, and I mix either pepper jack or cheddar, and I put onions and peppers in there with it, and then it's outstanding, and you've got a little bit of moisture in the peppers too, which I think helps.
I think that helps the moisture you pull out of the vegetables there.
Yep.
It's amazing.
So that's some good tips there as far as where to get seasoning, and as far as the high temp cheese. You can get that stuff. I bought it 1 year off Amazon. It's a legitimate manufacturer that you're getting it from, but I'd much rather get it from somebody local or whatever. So I got to get up there to Buffalo and grab that. But for
the supplies, we go through and we figure out everything we need for all the seasoning. And then, guys bring the bacon. They bring their own. If they want bacon, they bring their own. I let them know what they got poundage-wise and how many pounds of bacon they need. So they'll bring that. And then, like Rick likes the maple bacon. And then he actually puts syrup in, actual real, maple syrup. So, when we do his, we're mixing in the bacon, and then we mix in the syrup and make some phenomenal breakfast sausage with that syrup in there. And again, a lot of it's the moisture that goes in, but certainly the flavor of the syrup too. So that's a really nice blend.
Uncle Chris just messaged and said no 5-pound batches this year. That's a new union rule. And I think all three of my link sausages are all three of them 5-pound bags. I think they're all 3-5. It is what it is.
Yeah, Uncle Tim jokes about you. I'll have 1 pound of this, 3 pounds of that. Oh God.
Well,
so I think the other thing to talk about is with the grinders. We didn't talk a lot about the dies we run in them, And
yep, that was the question we needed to answer. Is how we do that.
We have various different size dies, and we always use. I don't know if it was a 5/32, so it's probably bigger than that. It's a big. They got to be at least 1/4 inch or better, right, Jimmy? Maybe they were 5/16 was our coarse grind die.
Yeah.
And we bought that new grinder. We got a die in there that's only got 3 holes in it, if you will, but they're every 120 degrees. There's these the grooves. So one of the things. What's that?
It's more like a chopper.
Yeah, and it's really nice because you can overwork the meat, right? And then it gets a little mushy, and you stuff the links, and it's especially if you stuff off the grinder, it tends to. I think the meat sets there in the grinding chamber a little because you're moving slow, So what we did was we used a chopper die, and you don't see a lot of those, but you can go online and get them at Lem, and but you put that in, and it's going to put your meat out in some bigger chunks, and then it'll be more similar to the size chunks that you got. It kind of matches the physical size of the grind of the pork butt. And then, when you mix it up, and then we put it through, and we put it through a fairly large grind for the when we're stuffing casings, we'll put it through be a 5/16. And then over the last couple of years, I bought one to start. It was like maybe a 10-pound or a 5-pound, I think, the sausage stuffer. And then I switched to, I think I got a 15 or 20 pounder now. But that really is a better way to load your casings. And they're not terribly expensive. You know, if you're at home and you're just throwing a few batches, you can easily get away with the 5-pound unit. You know, we did our whole grind with that 5-pounder, but you're just refilling more often. But, you know, we're doing, I think with Lynx, we're going to be doing around 130 pounds or 150, something like that. So that bigger unit, sometimes you'll take the whole batch, right? It'll fit in that 20-pound container, and you can stuff it out that way. So I would encourage anybody to, you know, it does make a difference what you're using for your dies, you know, and making sure your knives are sharp. You know, we inspect the knives and we have extras on hand. You know, we knock on wood. I mean, you'll go through the whole day with the same knife because we do a good job cleaning everything up. And but you know, you want to make sure you have a spare knife and be cognizant of what size dies you're running everything through. So for our burger, we usually go with a smaller, I don't know, what would that be, like a 5/32 maybe for Hamburg. But so that, you know, that makes a big difference. And, you know, you kind of have to play with it a little bit, like this whole process, right? It's like you may not get it right the first year, or one batch will be better than another, but over time you'll get better and you'll learn as you go. So I would encourage anybody to give it a try.
Yeah. And I would, so to kind of round out Joe's question, as far as the coarse grind. So we coarse grind, and then we mix with the pork, and then we blend those together. You know, we hand mix with the pork. We don't have a big mixer. That's one thing I think down the road that would be a good thing for us to invest in, would be a nice commercial mixer. I think we might get a better consistency of the mix of the meat if we did that. But, you know, we go coarse grind.
A lot easier for the mixing guys too. I mean, Tim and Chris are just worked all day.
Yeah, because they're breaking meat apart and then they're doing that. Yeah.
So to kind of paint that picture, right? So we break apart, like let's say we're going to do, you know, my meat. So we'll have my bags out. We get an order sheet, and I staple that right up on the wall in front of Tim and Chris so they know how many batches of what and if there's any seasoning going in, etc. But we also, like, as they break the meat apart, we got totes, and some of them are metal, like the metal food bins, stainless steel, and other ones are the food lugs. We've been getting those meat lugs from Lem. But you'll put all the meat in there, and then we actually started using stir sticks. I go down to the hardware store and I get, you know, 100 stir sticks or whatever, paint stirring sticks, and we take a marker and we'll write on there like whose it is and what the order is, and they stick that right in the meat log with the meat. And then when it comes to Jimmy for a coarse grind, he'll take all that meat, coarse grind it through into another meat log on the other side, on the output side of the grinder, and he'll move that stick over and put it into that batch, right? And so now it's coarse ground. The stick stays with it all the way through, and then that'll go over to the mixing table, and we have big stainless steel mixing bowls, and we have a scale, and those guys will weigh it out and get their 5 pounds for their batch, and then they'll get 1 pound of pork, and they'll mix that in, and then if there's seasoning, they'll sprinkle it in a little at a time, mix it up. So we have the mixing bowls that are going, and when they get it all mixed up, then it will go back in that meat log with the stir stick, and then it goes over to the final grind table, and then those guys, they'll have a meat log on the output side of the grinder. When they start grinding it, they'll take the stir stick, put it over into that one, and then like if you're doing bulk product, what we've done now is we used to like vacuum pack everything, which it works, it's great, it's very expensive when you're doing 800 pounds. We would spend, our two biggest expenditures were the pork butt and wrapping packages, right? So the wrapping, and then we spend a day ahead. We would be spending hours. We would figure out how many pounds of meat we had, so how many bags we'd need, and we would sit there and cut and seal all the bags. So we would literally spend, you know, $200-300 on vacuum bags. So we switched over a few years back to the regular plastic bags, and we got a 2-inch stuffing tuber that goes on the end of the grinder. So we grind right into the bag, and then we got a foot control for the grinder. So like when Mike's doing his final grind, he's pressing on the pedal and he's grinding, and when the bag fills up, the guy whoever's running the bags can pull the bag off, spin it, and run it through the tape machine. So we bought one of those tape machines, and you just run it through that, and then get the next bag on, and Mike, hits the pedal again. We fill that one. So that has really sped up the operation, and it's much more economical. And I'm pulling meat out, like we had some last week that's been wrapped in that, for a year, and it's fantastic. It keeps great.
Yeah.
So I've been very pleased with that, but it's a much more economical way to go, and you can go on Lem and you can buy them. You can get them at Cabela's too, and they had a bunch of them. I needed some, and I was going to order them from Lem, and I stopped down to Sportsman's Warehouse, and they had all the bags right there. So I just bought some bags there, and so I've got, I like to keep like 500 or 600 bags here for grind day. And then the other trick, this meat's coming out, it's cold, it goes into that bag, and then it's hard to write on, right? So we'll have somebody with a marker. We'll have actually 2 guys bagging, and somebody will be there with a marker, and they'll be writing on the bags ahead of time. So when the meat goes into it, it's already, it's got a marker, been written, and then you lock it down and put it in the box, and it goes quick.
Yeah.
We still vacuum pack, obviously, the link sausage. So that, that, and it's not slow. We have 2 vacuum packers, and, we'll run off a line of link sausage and get it all set and stuff them. And that seems to go pretty quick too. So we really have we have 5 stations. We have an order station that I usually run that, provides the orders to the mixing station. And I have all the seasonings. So I'll have all seasonings broken down by batch. And then we have the coarse grind that Jimmy runs. So that's the second station. So he's breaking it down, coarse grinding it, feeding it to the mixing station.
Feed them.
They mix it, then they feed it to the final grind. And then final grind will grind and package. And then we try to mix in some link sausage so that we keep, Billy, you typically run the sausage press, and Joel and Robin typically run the packing station. So once we get it all going, it's quite a production.
And then somewhere along the way, we always fuck somebody's meat up.
Yeah, that's been the challenge.
That'll happen towards the end of the day. When everybody, like when we start, everybody's on point. We're doing a great job. And then we had lunch or whatever, and guys will get drinking, and then everybody's laughing, not paying attention. And whose meat was this? And what flavor was it? So, and then I always feel bad because somebody like 3 months later, they'll pull out some Italian and it's actually like plain. And then they're calling me up going, what the hell? My order got screwed up, so it's like herding cats trying to control this group. Everybody's got their own way they want to do it. And
and it's funny because
I feel responsible, and I'm like the complaint department.
Yeah.
Somebody's order gets messed up, it comes back to me.
Yeah, we talked.
That's the way we like it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's funny how that works though. Is that we talk all serious that we want to improve these things, and then we get in the garage, and then everybody's just busting chops hard, and you get it the worst because Joel's the union steward, and you're you're in charge of the operation. So we take our grievances to Joel, and then Joel will bring them to you. It's very uncomfortable though because everybody's there when he's airing the grievances, so it's a difficult situation.
He's airing them from across the room, right? He's hollering them over to him.
Yeah.
Like, get some goddamn heat going here.
Oh, I know.
When they're cold.
Yeah.
But I like to keep the garage cold when we're doing the grind, right? I mean, I don't want that meat warming up. So
I think we might want to. Do you still have the air conditioner in the window there, or is it out? It is in there. I mean, it might behoove us to have that air conditioner running. Start it up the night before, and
it's supposed to be 70 degrees tomorrow. I mean, it ain't out of the question in a couple of weeks for it to be 70 degrees out while we're doing this.
That's not a bad idea. I can fire the cooler up, and I should be able to have it down to 38 or 40 degrees in there, and we can stack product in there as it gets completed.
Or even store bags in there if they're too thawed already. Or
well, that's my thought. And this has been something we've talked about, especially the 3 of us, is that everybody, one of the biggest challenges we have, being the fact that we're doing the volume of meat that we are, is that the machines never stop and things never have a chance to cool down. So you don't really have the ability. Like if you watch any video or you read an article, like one of the biggest keys to having great quality product that comes out is to keeping your equipment cold through the whole process. And we just can't do that because we never shut the grinders off. So you don't have the time. Like I've tried, when I'm using the sausage stuffer, when I don't have a batch, I put put it in the freezer to try to cool it down. But then, like it's, it works, but it doesn't work. And so that's one of the things I've been thinking about when we do it in January. You can move the stuff outside and let it stay cold if it's freezing or below, or even in the 30s, it'll keep it cold. But that's the thing, and that's where it gets with the grinding end of it. Is they say you don't want the meat to get too warm because then the fat starts to get soft and sticky, and it's like almost it starts to blend more. The fat does and kind of break down, and you don't want that. You want that fat to stay together. So when you cook it, the fat cooks down. So these are all the sort of challenges that we face.
I'd rather a guy comes in with a bag that's half thawed than fully thawed. When they come in fully thawed, we should almost, throw them in a freezer or something and chill them down, do them later in the day.
Tell them to go home. You're not welcome here.
We can't, we really can't cool the machines down. So the key is to keep the meat cold so that, like if the guy's hands are frozen while they're mixing and while Jimmy's breaking it, I mean, that's a good thing because, we move the meat through so fast that we've got it packaged and put away before it warms up, But you're right. I mean, it's especially if that meat's thawed. I mean, we've seen quite a difference in everything from the consistency, the color. Just does not cut as nice either. It doesn't grind as nice.
Mm-mm. Just responding to some comments. Got some comments back and forth over here.
I was thinking, I might just take home one of the grinders next season and set up a station, and every time I kill a deer, I'll just take it home and grind it the next day. And then I'll just come to grind day and run your course grind and drink all day and not worry about my meat.
Yeah. That's a lot of work, though, by the time you break
I
that
don't know.
thing.
I was thinking about it. If you got a setup and all you got to do is stop and grab your pork and throw it through and, if you're thinking about it in small batches, it won't be that bad. It's when we get, 7 deer piled up that it's like, damn, I got some meat to grind now.
Yeah. Well, wait till Jay gets to that number 2 age, and then he wants to be involved in everything. It's like yesterday I know, but it gets worse and then it'll get better. Billy, yesterday, every time when I was cutting up deer, I've been butchering the last 2 years on my island in the kitchen, and I was trying to do it when he was asleep. So I'd either get up and start cutting at 4 a.m. and try to be done by 6, or I would do it after they went to bed, or I might do both. I might do half the deer and then half the deer in the next morning. And he's got these I bought him these gardening gloves that are, they got the textured hands. It's kind of like mechanic gloves. Yeah. And he was helping me back during the fall. And it's one thing, just picking up chunks of meat. Who cares, but yesterday we thawed out a bag of the venison, just straight ground venison, and I needed to mix some seasoning with it. And I wanted to I mix an egg in there too. That's a trick I think, Jimmy, you started doing, and that's an awesome trick. So, I'd take this bag of meat, I dump it in there, and he was outside, and he comes in the house and he sees me mixing meat at the counter, and he's like, I got to get my gloves. And he's running over. I'm like, no. I'm like, I really don't want your hands mashing around in here, and we're going to go cook these,
Yeah, you don't know where his gloves have been.
No. And we don't clean him well when he's done, doing whatever he's doing. So, but long story short, I mixed that up, and that was outstanding. But he's got to be in everything. So you say that it's easy now, but wait till he wants to have his hands in every pot that you're mixing, and that makes it a little more difficult. But
yeah, I would definitely not be trying to do that with him.
No.
The other thing that we did this year was I bought I think I got 100 meat lug liners. And we run that many batches through, and imagine how many lugs we have going. I mean, we'll have easily have 12 lugs, meat lugs that are constantly going, and different meats going in them, and
you always got somebody in and out of the house trying to wash them up in between batches, and
yeah, I mean they get to the point where you want to rinse them off and keep them fresh and clean, so we're constantly in and out rinsing them. So I got the clear plastic lug liners. And they'll slide right on there, and then you put your meat in. When you're done, just throw the lug liner away and put the lug back in the line to be reused. So that'll help a little bit too.
So those are what those are nice too as well is that if we need to take the meat and put it in the cooler to cool it, if we, even if we're not going to let the meat sit for that long, if we're mixing it with seasoning and you want to let the seasoning kind of sit there a little bit, that's nice. And that's what I've done with my summer sausage, because I usually do that. Brian message in there, and I think rule of thumb, a lot of times when you're making sausage, they say to let it sit in a refrigerator for 24 hours with it mixed, so it can get tacky and you kind of get that consistency. We don't do that because of the volume we're trying to put through. But when I do summer sausage, that's what I do, and I mix all that up with the cure and with all the seasoning, and I just wrap it up, squeeze as much air out as I can out of the bag, spin it tight, closed, and then I put it in the fridge and let it sit for 24 hours, and that works outstanding. And you have like 0 dishes, like nothing. It's
great.
Awesome. Yeah. So those lug liners, I think I bought those at, you can get them anywhere that sells Lem, but I bought those at Runnings, and they haven't had them since. They had them that 1 year, and I haven't been able to find them there since. And Cabela's didn't have them either when I stopped by there a few weeks ago when we were about ready to grind.
Yeah, they didn't have them at Sportsman's Warehouse. My two places, my number one place is Runnings. They have a fantastic selection. They've got knives for the grinders and dies and everything else, but and a lot of times the lug liners. But if they don't have them, and Sportsman's Warehouse didn't have them, so I went online and ordered them from Lem, and I had them literally. Or no, I think I went on. Believe it or not, I shouldn't say this because I don't want to bash Lem or whatever, but I found what I wanted on Lem, and I was going to order it, and I'm like, let me go to Amazon Prime and see what it is. And it was cheaper for the exact same thing. It was Lem lug liners, so I had it. And
you're just helping pay Bezos, to build his boat and then move that bridge.
I am.
Yeah, you're aiding and abetting. Real nice. So those are some tipperoos. Is there anything else we can think of that are important things for the success of what we consider to be a good grind day?
I can give you a tip on what to do with your meat if it's left over going into another season.
Yeah, there you go.
Because I did this year. I had some steaks and roast left over. And like Dad said, we like to have some stuff made up each year. So I took my leftover steaks and roast and actually had them made into hot dogs. So I was starting clean slate this year, which is something that the past I always shuffle through my freezer and try to use up, the older stuff first. And you always end up with a few packages of something that was from a couple of years ago. So this year I was like, I am starting fresh, and I cleaned out the freezer in August or September, and I ran it over there, and you had it done in a few days, and I was starting fresh. So worked out pretty well.
That's a great idea.
And that's the stuff that you seem to always go through the fastest. The hot dogs seem to just disappear. Snack sticks, anything like that. You get that stuff made somewhere like Steele's or Wilson's or wherever. I know there's a ton of places around,
places that make them.
Yeah, you go get that stuff done, and it is gone as fast as you make it. You take it to one party. Those snack sticks are a huge hit, and they're gone. So that's a great idea, Jim, with meat especially when you're coming into the new season. 3
huge tubes of summer sausage and 20 pounds of hot dogs, which that was before pork was added. So whatever that came out to, 30 pounds of hot dogs or whatever. So yeah, I had a very large variety of stuff that I was slapping in the freezer before I was putting some more roasts and back straps and all that good stuff in there. So
yeah, nice. Yeah, so the the other things like logistically that we need is all these. I don't care what you do. You we double bag the venison, we put it in the freezer. There's no don't ask me how. I mean, the bags are all intact. Somehow there's a lot of blood, as you're thawing them, and so I buy a big roll of plastic that's, if you rolled it out, it'd probably be 10 or 12 feet wide, but it's folded up, so it's 3 feet wide. So it gives me multiple layers of plastic, and I lay that down all across the front of the shop. So it's probably 18 feet, 20 feet. And then we put cardboard on top of that to manage. And you need to, because the meat's sitting there, and, but that keeps it cleaner. When we're done, we can throw away the cardboard and roll up the plastic and we don't have a floor that's all blood soaked and people have been walking through it and tracking it around. And, you end up with 30 some bags of meat getting brought in. So it's, and those that are frozen, we can leave out, but that's, and the other thing, it's a party too, right? It's not just the meat grind day. We end up, Wes he'll cook breakfast for all of us. So he's got a griddle that he brings outside, and he pops up a tent, and we start off the morning with egg sandwiches and have breakfast, and then we get going, and then we work through to lunch, and then Paula will have chili made. We'll have chili and cornbread, and we have, not hot dog. We'll have some hot dog rolls for the sausage and some hamburger rolls, and we eat well that day, that's for sure.
So here's a suggestion. I would suggest that Mom doesn't make as much chili as she does. She usually makes two big, huge crocks, and we usually cook so much meat for lunch that there's just stuff that is left, and that's just. I was thinking about that. It's like she puts so much time and effort into making that chili, and we have all of this fresh ground meat that we want to try and taste everybody's different mixtures and stuff. And it's like, God, what do I eat? Do I eat Mom's chili or do I eat 6 burgers? You're trying to figure that out.
Yeah.
We've had some fun questions come through here on Bullhorn. First one, Brian asked if I'd ever smoked the andouille sausage. I have not. I think I should try that.
I bet that would be awesome.
Yeah, maybe I'll try smoking some of that stuff. And if you've done it, Brian, I'd be interested. I'll call you and we'll chat about it. I'm interested to see if you've done that before or not. And then Joe asked, he says the most important part is obviously something we haven't covered yet. What's the beer of choice for everybody in the grinding garage? So I would say, from my experience, the beer of choice seems to be Labatt Blue Bottle, is kind of a rite of passage as a Harvey Mal, is that you have to just, be a man and drink a Labatt Blue Heavy in a bottle.
All day.
All day, yeah.
Yeah, you got to make sure you can start right off at breakfast.
Well, once you finish your first one, then you throw a dip in, and then you spit the dip into the... I've never done that. Now, that's not my ball game. I know you two are...
Actually, I don't know if you can see that. I actually have my Buffalo Bills whiskey, right? So I got my Gentleman Jack. It's got Bill Harvey right on there. So
it says Bill Harvey on it?
Yeah.
Where'd you get that? 2021.
Jack Daniels sent it to me for all the business I give him.
You're so full of shit.
No, that's in the glass. Look at that.
That is. I mean, that's legit. That cost somebody way too much money.
I just started this bottle over the weekend after the kids left.
Tonight?
Yeah. Is that?
Yeah.
That's the secret to getting through 38 years in the transportation business is drinking a half a bottle of whiskey every night. So that's
the exciting news for us is this is the last year of us doing this with me having to work. So next year it'll be like everything will be all ready to rock and roll because I'll be retired and I can set it up days in advance and it'll be fun.
Yeah. Yeah, we hope that the way that we're drawing it up all works out that way. That's my hope. Let's see here. Brian says he has smoked a whole batch. He said he thinks I think traditionally it's a smoked product, not raw.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. Yeah. So I'll have to try that. He likes the whiskey you're drinking. So you remember, I think my first beer I ever drank, Dad, I want to say, and statute of limitations is up, so I can say this. I want to say, you would probably have a better reference of how old I was, but you used to let us each take sips of your Labatt Blue out of the bottle while we were cutting deer in the garage, and I don't know, we couldn't have been, I don't know how old, but I don't know. It's like, what?
Mine was at camp for sure.
Was it?
And it was roosting birds. I'd take 2 bottles of beer and we'd sit down next to a tree and I'd let you have one and I'd have one. I created this mess.
Yeah, it was early on in life for sure.
But yeah, I can remember you were talking about the kids and before long your boys will be out there in the garage helping us out. But I can remember when we had the grinding day over at the Bean Hill Meat Cutters original shop and. You guys were out there. You guys loved it. You made a day of it, and wanted to help and be in the middle of everything,
Yep. And I can remember the years when when we were all everybody, you and Uncle Rick with the boys and Uncle Mike with his kids and Dave and Joe, like when we were all young, that was like a huge day for us. For a while there we were helping, but then we were out like running around or sledding or riding the snowmobile, playing cops and robbers out back, whatever. But it's funny. It's fun to see, everybody kind of coming back around. It's great to, we won't have Joe this year, but Dave really seems to have taken to the whole process and loves being part of it all. And, and having Sean there and having, just all the family and the younger guys that are now, we're not really young anymore. We're turning into adults. It's kind of creepy, but, now we're having kids and we're not too far away from having our own kids. And just judging by the way that Kate lives her life, I'm guessing she's going to be elbow deep in Venison, stirring the goods.
Sure she will.
Yeah, she was pissed tonight. She drove the battery operated Jeep for the first time by herself tonight, and she didn't go 12 feet and drove straight into a tree, and just sat there and stood up on the seat and just screamed bloody murder. And Sarah came around the corner of the house. She's like, "What? Oh!" And Kate's just standing there, just tears just full on flowing down her face. She was so upset because she crashed her truck.
Crashed the Jeep.
Yep. So if that's a sign of anything to come.
Yeah, I had Jay out in the backyard today just because we needed some fresh air. And he wanted nothing to do with being inside the fence. He wanted to be outside the fence, walking down the steepest part of the hill. He was having a riot.
Yeah, we were, my backyard's a freaking, it just gets so wet, especially right now when everything's thawing. And so the kids were playing like kind of up on the flat spot up towards the shed. And Billy was out there. I had meat on the grill, and I cut some of those apple trees down in the yard next to the house behind Missy's. Yeah. And so I was getting over there, and I just had the saw running. I was cutting up just a little bit, just killing some time. And the kids were in the house, and I come back out, and Billy's back up in the top of the yard playing. I was like, oh, that's cool. He's like playing on his own. That's great. And so I come back over to check the meat, and he comes running down the hill to come see me and come onto the deck. And he slipped in the mud and went face plant straight down, landed in the mud, and it was like smack. And he just laid there, like didn't move and just starts screaming. I'm like, it's okay. It's just mud. Like, it's not going to kill you. But it was pretty fantastic. I guess we probably made him that way. We made him like scared to be dirty, but trying to break that. You got to get him out there and get him muddy. If I didn't have some nice clothes on,
diving face first into the mud on purpose.
That's what I was thinking to myself. I'm like, I should go out here right now and show him a nice mudslide. But
you should have just given him a big old belly flop.
I should have
right next to him.
That would have been funny. And then held my hands up and screamed.
That's right.
Like at my bachelor party, it was Howie didn't wash he walked around barefoot in the mud at my bachelor party. And was it Dave? I think Dave Mack, he was like so creeped out because everything was just filthy and Howie was dirty. And he was like, I got to wash my hands. Like, yeah, well, we both have, our mothers are sisters. That's what that is.
Yeah, David
went home. Your wedding was quite the mess too.
My wedding or his wedding?
Your wedding.
For who? For somebody's feet?
For the backyard.
No, me and Lawrence jumped.
Oh, the backyard.
The pool used to be.
That's right. Those were the good old days. I love it. I love it every year when that video comes up in my memories. It's like, it just makes me laugh hard. So anything else?
What have we left out?
I don't know. We've had some Facebook comments over there. Lee Robinson, he was messaging about a couple things. He says he uses a chamber vac, which is a different style of vacuum sealer. I don't know if you've ever seen one of them.
I have, yeah.
So he says he used one of those. He says it costs a little bit more up front, but they're actually a little bit less expensive. The bags in that are in the long run, so you kind of save money in the long run. It might be a little bit more of an efficient sealer as well. So might be something to look at down the road.
Have you seen those, Billy?
I Googled it to see exactly what it looked like. It's interesting.
Yeah. That may have to be our next one. If you remember, we started out with those relatively inexpensive food saver things, and then we bought that really nice one. I bought that from Cabela's. And that, I don't know, it's not as much as a chamber sealer. I think they're even more, but I spent, was hedging $400, $379 or something for that one. And that thing's a machine that just cranks it out. But the chamber sealers the guys say they're really good.
That must be what what some of the commercial places where we go get sausage made, that looks like that's what they must be using.
Yeah.
I mean, I bought a food saver last year when I was going to do all this stuff myself, and it didn't pull the air out of the bags of burger. I had to go over to Dad's and get the heavy. Actually, I think that's why I didn't finish my meat in one day, is because I had to come over and get the other vacuum sealer, and it just threw my whole day off. But yeah,
you spend the money on a vacuum sealer, and you'll just be so much more satisfied. That's one thing you don't really want to skimp on.
Yeah, it was night and day. Yours was pulling a vacuum far better than the one my brand new one was. Yeah. So,
what else did Lee have?
He asked if we'd ever used a motorized or had a lead on a motorized a motor to put onto the sausage stuffer.
Yeah, and they have sausage stuffers that you can get with a motor on them.
Mm-hmm.
And I considered that. A lot of them are similar to the sausage stuffer we have. Just on the top of it, instead of the gearbox, it'll be a motor. But I opted, I figured for the, doing 100 or 125 pounds or whatever we do a year, I figured we could. And I actually kind of like the crank because we can vary our speed. I don't know what you think about that. You're the one running it more than I am, but
hook up the hammer drill and let her fly.
Well, that's what I did. That's what I did last year. I brought my drill and we didn't use it to stuff. We used it to back it off, because that's what's so frustrating is you want to go slow to get that nice flow coming out. And if you got a jam or you got something, it's nice to just be able to just stop cranking. But backing it off, it's a pain in the ass because you're
that worked really good backing it off.
Yeah. So, and I think it was just I don't know, what is that, a 3/8 or 5/8 socket is what it just kind of goes right on there.
Yeah, it's a hex shaft that the crank handle goes on, and you just don't set the set screw, and then you can put it on and press your venison through, stuff your links, and then you slide it off and put a impact gun on there or your drill on there with a socket and just wind it back quickly. That worked out really good.
Mm-hmm. Well, those were all the questions we had come in. I think we covered it pretty good as far as what the operation looks like and what we do. Again, we're not, we just Dad's been doing this for what, 25, 30. Well, you've been doing it as long as I've been alive. So
yeah, I'm trying to think how long we've been doing
it. A little over
now.
30 years. So learned a lot, improve every year, and always happy to hear people's ideas. But it doesn't have to be an overwhelming process. I went this year, this past fall. Cabela's was running one of their great deer hunting sales or whatever, and I bought just to kind of their top end of the low end grinder, just to have here. So if I wanted to do some small batches of something, I could. If I wanted to make my summer sausage alone, and I've got 2 lugs and a vacuum sealer, and I can do a lot with just that, and I probably have $300 into that whole process. So if you
if you were to do it by deer, that's probably all you would need.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Yeah, and if you're a single, if you're a person handling that, even a few people doing it together, think about, you take your deer to get processed, you're paying now. It ain't going to get any cheaper. You're going to be looking at $100 to $130, if not more. Yeah. And then if you're going to have any finished product, like anything that's mixed or blended, you're going to be upwards of $200 for a deer easily, if not more. Right. So just poking away at this, you don't have to have that's the one thing I've come to terms with over these last 2 deer seasons, because our situation kind of changed here with my crew out here, is that I don't need a facility. As long as you've got decent hanging weather, I let the deer hang in the garage and I'll just pick away at it. And there's something nice about that, where it's like, what, I've got an hour tonight, I'm going to take a quarter off and I'll clean it up, and I know that I did it proper. And it's really not that overwhelming of a process, but it is overwhelming if you've never done it, but it's not something that can't be done. All you need is a flat surface to cut on that can be clean. I roll out some freezer paper, tape it to my counter, and do it right there in the kitchen. And it's a beautiful thing. You got your garbage can right there. You got everything you need, TV in front of you, and you just go to work. But it's a
well, and that's the thing. Everything we've talked about here is our like mass production of 800 pounds of product in less than 8 hours, right? But it doesn't have to be that way. It's just the way we do it because we combine forces, and with this many guys, we'll have 12 or 13 of us there.
We've grown too. When you guys started doing this, it was, one grinder operation was fine,
but if you have yourself and a buddy or a family member, and as you said, Billy, you just buy a decent grinder, and little by little get into it, and for not a lot of money, you could have. To me, it like adds a whole nother dimension to the deer hunting. It's not just you look at everything we do from the tree cutting, thinning, creating habitat, if you will, right during the winter. And then Jimmy's working on the food plots. He just did some frost seeding, and the mowing, and then maintaining our camp, right. And then you get into the actual hunting, and then we all get together and we butcher together, and we have pizza and beer, and that's a fun thing. And then we do this grind, so it's really all. I kind of like it because it's like encompasses all aspects of the hunting experience.
It's a full-on lifestyle, ain't it? There's not a whole lot of time for anything else. The way that we.
Do you guys see that cutting link working tonight?
No,
I haven't looked yet.
Couple of food plots were getting action.
The deer have really moved back in dramatically as soon as the snow came off, which is cool to see.
I don't know if you got. Well, no, you guys wouldn't have seen because it was on my spy point. But I believe they looked like bucks. They were 6 of them, single file, that just kept going by the camera, going up into the side hill.
Was that yesterday?
Was over. I think it was over the weekend. I don't know. I'll check. It might have been yesterday.
Well, there was that group over by
above the camper.
Yeah.
There was a string of them yesterday that came through.
Well, maybe that was the same group that's hanging up there. But they, you can almost, you look at the does, and, I couldn't see where, for sure that they were bucks. But as well as I do, this time of year, usually the does are, they're pretty big in the belly, right? Getting ready to drop,
Oh, yeah, good point. I didn't even think about that.
If you just look at the frame on the deer and the way it was built, but did you see the turkeys too? We had a slew of turkeys move through there, Jimmy, by up where you killed F-Tard,
FT, you mean?
Yeah, that's what I meant.
I don't know why that camera's not working. I stopped at it last weekend when I was up there.
Did you see all the turkeys on there though?
I pulled the card and I did save some pictures off it. There was some turkeys, but
yeah,
I didn't see anything that blew me. I could see the scratchings and stuff, but
one that long ago, I got a bunch of pictures off that with the.
Well, I wasn't getting them for a while, so I actually put my cell number in as a recipient.
Yeah.
On the website, and now I'm just getting them texted to my phone, and it's working fine. So.
Okay, well, I was getting them.
Interesting.
But yeah, the deer have moved back in heavy.
Yeah. Yeah, we had deer in a couple of food plots tonight, like at the same time. So, they're not like one set of deer that wandered over to the other food plot. So
nice.
They're feeding right in front of my bank's blind.
Hopefully the
fitting distance.
Hopefully the food plots take off this year and we'll be up and running.
Yep.
Well, I'm good. I'm about spanked. I'm freaking tired today. So
yeah.
Well, we're past our 42-minute limit, so
I know
42 to 46 minutes, you start losing listeners.
He was wrong last week. We picked up followers and questions and everything after 42 minutes.
I just listened to that one today, as a matter of fact, this afternoon. That was an excellent podcast with Teeter and Old Tin Cup with Ben.
Yeah, it was it's always a fun discussion with those guys, and I think it's. If you were to go back and listen to our discussion from a year ago, it's pretty amazing how much we've all progressed and learned about doing this stuff. And I just think about myself, the work that I did this winter compared to the work I did the winter before. I've gotten so much more confident with a chainsaw. I'm learning more about identifying tree species and bushes and plants. That's the fun part about this whole process, is that there's just so much to learn. And now I go into the woods and I'm I'm analyzing stuff beyond just what the deer trail is. You know, I'm like, where are the apple trees? What's growing around them? And, you know, that's one thing, like John's podcast is, I've really enjoyed listening to his podcast. He's only like 10 episodes in, but it's very informative. And there's a lot of different unique ideas that I'm getting from that show that I can just go out and immediately put into action out in the field. So that's fun.
I gotta check that out. I haven't subscribed to his podcast yet. I'll have to check that out. But I just wanted to let you guys know you did a really nice job with that. It was nice having Jimmy and Dallas on and those guys. That was a great discussion.
Thanks. Did you listen to the Howell one?
Yes, that was awesome. I joined. I'm a howler now.
You're a howler?
So did
I got my hoodie.
Yeah, I got some. When I get done with this podcast, I'm going to take care of some issues, and I got to reach out on the Sunday hunting. I got to get after that.
There you go. Yeah, if people haven't checked out Howl for Wildlife yet, it's a very new organization that started up just after the first of the year, and they're doing some incredible things. And
wow.
You know, between them and Sportsman's Alliance has been around for a while, and they're very good too. So you know, there's a lot of pressing issues out there that I think people, if you're not on social media, I don't really think you know about it. I think that's the only way you have any idea that this is going on. But if you go to Howl, and you don't need to be on social media, go and check. I would say check out these two, but Howl for Wildlife is extremely simple. The way that they've set it up, it's free. There's no cost. You just go in there, create an account, and they will send you emails about legislation that's out there that needs, you know, to be heard on. And they have everything set up for you. I mean, but it's between the time you set up your account and you could go there and actually send these emails. I mean, it wouldn't take you more than 10 minutes probably to set up your account and then send all those, you know, click on all those action items to send the emails. And then you're just doing onesie twosies as they come along, and it's making a difference. I mean, they're posting on a daily basis on social media about, you know, the hearings that are happening and the different legislative actions that, like, they're actually, some of these legislators are making comments in their speeches about how much they heard from certain people about the support of these things or the opposition to these things. So it's helping. Like, we're making a difference as outdoors enthusiasts and hunters and anglers getting involved. So,
and as you said, that it's super simple, right? Because it's like I went on after the podcast. I mean, it was I mean, I'm literally, when the podcast was done, I was down. I don't know if I was working in the basement. I don't know if I was paying bills or whatever, but I went to Google and I you know, Howl for Wildlife, and I clicked on it and I went on and I signed up, you know, and I'm getting the emails, and it makes it very easy, you know, to weigh in on these different issues. And I look at that, and, you know, I'm involved with the legislative work in the school bus industry in New York State. And I wish we had something like that, you know, for other sectors. I mean, that is so well done.
Yeah.
And it's so efficient. You know, I mean, that's part of the problem is people have to sit down and write a letter. And then the first thing they have to do is, like, who are my legislators? Who are the bill sponsors? There's work to do.
Yeah.
Like, if you want to, like, you can spend a couple hours, like, commenting on an issue. Not with this thing. With Howl, you get in, review it. You know, you can modify the message, you know, personalize it a little bit. Very impressed. That was excellent.
Yeah, I did the same thing. As soon as I was done listening to it, I just rolled over and signed right up. So
it's awesome. Yeah, and so last Friday I met with Rick McDermott, the head of the Crossbow Coalition, New York Crossbow Coalition, and did a podcast with him. And then I'm going to meet with Joel next week and record a kind of part 2 of that discussion with Joel to hear from someone's perspective that this legislation in New York that's proposed would make a dramatic impact on that person's life. Somebody who's passionate about hunting and especially archery hunting, but just physically cannot do it anymore. And we had a great discussion, Rick and I did. And before I went up there and saw him, I went on the website because Joel had sent the email to us, and it's a lot of the same idea, you know, with Howl, but this is one particular organization with one particular focus. But you go right on to the Crossbow Coalition's website, New York Crossbow Coalition, and you can go to, they have a page where they have all of the legislators. And so I did that, you know, but it took a little bit more manual labor, but I very easily went in, I created an email, And I went in and I copied all the email addresses for all the decision makers. I sent one to the group for the assembly. I sent one to the group for the Senate, and then I copied in the 2 decision makers. The governor and the spokesperson or whatever the chair of the bill or whatever the other top person was. But that took some time. But those things are making an impact, and I got several emails back that didn't seem like canned emails. They seemed like they were. I'm sure they were, but they seem fairly personal, and people, the legislators, expressing their support for the bill and that they will vote for it when it comes down on the floor. So it's I know people hate politics. I know they hate it, but it's so important. This is our lives. This is the stuff that we all care so much about, and there's. This is not something that they're looking to take away, this whole crossbow thing, but, it's just common sense that, a kid should be able to hunt with a crossbow that doesn't have experience, an adult that has medical issues and can't draw a bow back, and a senior. Like, I don't understand anybody out there who is a hardcore archery hunter that's going to stand on a stump and yell and say that you're ruining my archery hunting and this is bad for us and hunters. And it's like, what in the hell are you talking about? It's just.
I mean, I was all excited when they opened the crossbow season. I ran out and bought a crossbow, and we went up to the deck there at camp and we sighted them all in. And I was like, man, this is going to be sweet. Well, then you go start toting the thing around and sitting up in a tree stand with it like you would your bow. And I'm like, this ain't any easier.
No.
If you're sitting in a box blind with a lead sled, it's going to give you an advantage. But,
right.
I ended up selling mine and just going back to my bow.
Well, and the bottom line is about participation, right? I feel the same way you do. I didn't buy one right away, but I bought one, a couple of years after you did. And I carry it around the woods, and it's kind of cumbersome. And I sit in the stand, and I like figuring out where my shots would be, and you got to worry about your limbs, because you're
the string will hit the tree if you're trying to reach around the tree, and
yeah, exactly. So I mean, I feel like I have a better advantage, with my compound bow, right? But at the same time, if we can get more people, more participation, whether it be kids, whether it be disabled, whether it be elderly, I mean, I don't know how much longer I'm gonna, hopefully I got a lot of years of bow hunting left in me, but there'll come a time when, I'm not able to get that bow back, similar to Joel's situation.
Unless you're shooting an old reed curve or something like that. I mean, the compounds now are just as lethal.
Oh,
so
yeah. You can shoot.
I mean,
with practice, you can shoot out the same range.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and
I don't,
really,
I don't want to hear that it ain't traditional, because neither's a compound bow.
No, it's not.
And we've heard you hear about, like, if we spend all our time fighting each other, meaning sportsmen, right? Like people that are like the Archers Association that don't want the crossbow coalition, right? So it's like, let's not fight each other. Let's embrace each other's, like, our differences, the different passions. We have different reasons why we select that weapon. I don't care. Get outside, have fun. And if you can't do it, you ought to be able to take a crossbow and do it for the whole season. I don't care.
Yep.
It's just deer hunting, right? It's getting out there, enjoying it.
Yep. Yeah. At the end of the day, no one really cares other than somebody that wants you to stop doing what you're doing altogether. So if we can stop worrying about what's going on inside and start looking to the outside, and this is one thing I'll kind of leave here is I listened to a couple discussions with I've become a huge fan of Chris Rowe. He's a wildlife biologist and a property manager and an outfitter. And he's been on KafaruCast a handful of times, and he has his own podcast. And man, he had a discussion that I listened to last week that he got into talking about predator management and CWD and EHD and all these different topics around that, and some different thoughts and ideas that are kind of counter to what you hear in the mainstream, or, kind of what most hunters are talking about. And this is somebody who is like literally an active biologist working in the field with game, has spent weeks on end, living with the elk herds and understanding the dynamics, and hearing his perspectives was like, it made me take a whole step back and go like, whoa, like, what are we doing here? And there's all these, I recommend that people go and listen to that one discussion that he had. But where I'm going with this is social media is becoming just incredibly toxic. Not necessarily toxic for the reasons that you would think I'm going to say, but because hunters are just, we're digging our own graves. We're literally posting stuff that has no value to the internet. It has no value to people on social media that aren't hunters. Like, yes, somebody posts a picture of something, I can look at that and make a decision of, yeah, that's hunting. That's what it is. But you post a video, and I've seen a ton of it. It's been coyote season. I've been seeing all these posts of guys out, and now guys have got these cameras on their guns, and it's like, it's first-person shooter shit on your cell phone watching a coyote get smoked. And that's badass video. Like, I think it's cool, but that's not necessary to be online for people to see. I'm sorry, but it's just not. And all it's doing is it's creating a lot of drama for hunters, because anti-hunters see that, and it is just like, they just jump on it. So I'm just bringing that up, and that's, I think, a further discussion I'm going to have. I've got, friends of mine that I've been needing to talk to about that, because I kind of shot them back a couple messages, and we went back and forth, but didn't really dig into it. But I've been thinking a lot about my presence on social media and what the hell I'm doing. I've been doing that for a while, but I'm just really questioning, is there even benefit to me posting any of the hunting related stuff, especially on Facebook and Instagram, when it comes to killing things? I have a website. I have something that I pay for to host stuff. I can post my own stuff on my own website, and nobody's going to see it. Nobody can tell me to take it down or not. If people want to see it, they can be there. And that's the second discussion that Aaron Snyder and Chris Rowe had together is, like, Aaron Snyder's planning on getting off of social media. Like, he's building his company up to where it needs to be, and then he's going to check out, and he's going to do his own thing and have his own platform. And if people want to consume his content, they go there. But
right.
I see this stuff, and everything that goes on, and everybody thinks if it's on social media, that must be what everyone is doing. But, I can say to both of you, neither one of you are really very active at all on social media. And, Dad, your generation grew up living life in the outdoors and never posted a picture anywhere and tell anybody about it. And it doesn't validate that you're more of a successful hunter than someone else because you posted a picture about it or whatever. Like, you are a great outdoorsman, and you don't even need to post a picture to tell anybody about it. And we know it, if that makes sense. So I don't know. That's just kind of where my heart is. Like, we're on an hour and a half right now, and I think my eyes could shut right this second. But this is the stuff that's like burning me up lately, because, I have this podcast, I have this platform, and I do all this work for it. But it's like, are we like digging our own grave with a lot of the shit that hunters are putting out there? I'm starting to think that we are.
Yeah. No, it's a good point. Good thought to end on, Willie.
Mm-hmm. Ponder that.
I'm with you on it.
Yep. So I'm going to need a whole bunch of contributors for PertNearOutdoors.com. We'll have all sorts of things, pretty much internet or pretty much outdoors. That's what it's going to be. Pert Near Outdoors.
Pert Near Outdoors.
Who knows where we're going, but we're not going anywhere on here. So I love the podcast end of it. I love the long form discussion and building relationships. So
the Deer Association had their event down in Wellsville.
Yeah.
And they had a lady down there. I think she might have been from Cornell to talk about.
Yep.
I don't know if it was EHD and
CWD
and CWD, or was it just CWD?
Just CWD. Yeah. Kristen Schuler is her name. Dr. Kristen Schuler. Yep.
Any possibility? I think that would be a great episode to put out. You're probably all over it.
All over it. Yeah.
Do you even listen to our podcast?
Yeah.
Every episode. Yeah.
Well,
I'm on some of them.
You missed that part then.
He's a geriatric, Jim. He's forgetting half the stuff that goes in one side. But no, so she wants to come on. She's down with that. I had some messages back and forth with Chris Rowe, so I'm planning on getting him on here, which I'm excited about that. I've got a list of people that it's just a matter of, and then it always ends up just coming back to like, hey, do you guys want to get on and talk about packing meat? Because it's just, I don't know, life's been so freaking hectic lately that it's just easier to do this. But hopefully when things open up a little bit, you get into rhythm getting some of those guests on, because I think those are extremely valuable conversations to have.
I just think that there's a lot of people that I don't know if they know enough or if they're paying attention enough to things like EHD and CWD.
Yeah.
I mean, it's on our doorstep. It's in New York in some spot. not widespread, but I mean, we don't want it to be widespread, right? So,
Nope.
yeah, it's just something to like to see more on.
Yep. Well, you heard it here. I will clickety clack, pitter patter, and I'll get at her. We'll get her on here. So,
All right.
all right. Good night, boys. Thanks
Then
for everybody
we'll do a live podcast on April 9th at the Windy Brew.
Yeah, we'll do a live at Windy Brew to at least do the drawings. We'll do a live podcast there to do that. So,
awesome.
Yeah. Thanks for joining me, guys, and thanks for everybody that tuned in live.
Yeah.
Yep.
Take care, guys.
Sleep tight.
Feed 'em.
Feed them, everybody.
Feed them.
See ya.